1, 2. Your attention, please. I know that everybody wants to get the book signed, but could you stay calm, take it nice and easy, hold a drink.
Thank you to Kevin Haynes and your group. Thank you very much for coming up. Thank you to Gus John. Thank you for Scala. As you know, we can never open, we cannot start any event without first paying honour to the ancestors. And so that's what we do. I don't want to really come up here and talk for too long. I'm just absolutely drained. I've been up overnight. I haven't slept, so I don't even know what I'm saying. That's my disclaimer from now. But this has been a labour of love. I've always wanted to do this book. I've always known that it was something that I was going to do. I've been recording a lot of these interviews over the last 30 years with my team, Lorna Tapper. Lorna's worked with me for about 25, 26 years. Lloyd by my side. We've done a lot of work together as Rice and Peas. We work as a collective. Sometimes the teams change, come and go, but we still produce the works. And one of the things that we try to, we've never taken a penny in funding from anyone. We've always kind of raised our own capital, so we're totally independent. So no one will tell us anything. Therefore, we are totally responsible for every word we write. You know, no one has their hand up our backside to tell us anything. And one of the things we've always striven to do is to tell honest narratives, honest stories, whether favourable to us as a community or not. You know, and so, you know, so certainly I think you'll find that in those pages. It's been an absolutely magnificent team that I've worked with, an esteemed team. You know, I grew up hearing of Gus John and reading Gus's work, or hearing of Magaret Buzby and Charlie Phillips and all of these great characters. And to I don't even know if I'm part of that clique yet. Really, you know, but I'm working my way up, so I can carry myself amongst this esteemed company. I mean, everyone here is esteemed. Wilf Walker, Adam Keish, I mean, everyone here, and certainly all the characters in the book. No one is better or worse than anyone else. And in this story, you hear these narratives, flawed characters, myself included. No one's perfect, and it's about telling that honest story of who we are, the journey of us as a people, how we ended up where we are in this condition, and certainly what we can do now for the future. And look at, I mean, you've got our children out there. I mean, imagine where we come from. We come here saying, boy, you have to run from Teddy boy, this, that, and everything else, and now you have our own youths them out on road, hunting down each other for support. How did it get to that stage? How did it ever get to that stage? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and we can blame everyone else, but first of all, we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves how we got there. You know what I mean? I know, no one needs to tell me what the white man has done and what the, you know what I mean? I know that already. You know what I mean? It's what we're dealing with, so it's a collective responsibility. We have to say, how has the society shaped our youth, and how have we shaped our own youth? And I know, because I come from that journey, I've come from those streets, and I've done my fair share of dirty work. So, you know what I mean? It's not about that. It's about seeing honest characters, but understanding how we arrived there, looking at how flawed we are. Let this stand as an example for all of us as to how we can work together, support each other, build back that greatness of where we were in the 70s and in the 80s, and where it kind of fell apart. So let it trickle down from here. I mean, I remember back in the day, in the 70s, when you'd walk down the street, and if you saw another black person, you'd say, yo, brother, or sister. We've evolved now. We're in a different time. We're not in the stages where we were. And our children are here to stay. So we have to be building that kind of cooperative existence. And there are so many people in this story who are not black, who are white, who are allies, who fought, who sacrificed themselves, who shed their blood along the lines. And half the time, they are very well often forgotten. We shove them to one side. So here we are, family. That is the family of activists, fighters, righteousness, fighting for justice. And justice is colorblind, it's not black or white. You know, so hopefully we will take that message forward and again revive that message of brother and sister. The person who's moderating today is a guy called Brian Knight. I've got a lot of faith in him. I'm retiring now. This is my last project. After this, I'm gone. I'm back to Cuba. I'm building. What do you mean by retire? You think I'm you? No, Sam, you're gone. No. I'm building a creative cultural arts center in Cuba for creatives. Been on that for the last 4 or so years. What do you think we've been doing it? You said we should have been doing that here. What do you think we've been doing around my house every time and meeting up with people like, what do you think we have to deal with? Yo, we already have it here. And it happens from the house, Charlie, where we have your birthday party, where you link up with everybody. That's what that is here. But what we're going to do is we're going to be building something fresh in Cuba. Always you, Charlie. Always you. But hold on, you know what, if you want to start on me. You sat down in my house before I went back to Cuba and tell me you would not take no MBE or OBE. And look at him now, Sir Charlie. So go on. I wouldn't. Oh, Charlie, you're going to get the chance to respond. It's a family business. Charlie's going to have the mic, he'll be able to cost me back same way. Family. You should not open your mouth upon me. You should not open your mouth upon me. Anyway, our family, that's how we do it. Family. But, I didn't say you sold out, Charlie. I didn't say you sold out. And there's nothing, hold on. And if I'm going to expose the MBEs and OBs in the room, there's Will Forker here. There's Leslie Parmer here. Leslie was in my house in Cuba, and he was the last one to get his OB and MBE, and he said, I'd never take one. No. Look, Bumble, no. He came back to England, and I was in Cuba, he never said ish, it's what, because you know what I mean? Instead I look on Facebook and I see Leslie. Alright, everybody have it now, not me, sir. And I know, sir, there's certain people, sir, Gus John would not deal with that. But anyway, that's another argument. You know what I mean? Let's get on with the evening. I want to introduce Brian Knight. Brian Knight is a young historian. He's 21 years old. Well, I mean, must be 22 now, but 21, 22. He's written for Al Jazeera, BBC. When I first met him, he had this passion for the history. He knew all the characters. He knew about Gus. He knew about Altair. He knew about Roy. So he'd interviewed most of them, and I was so impressed. And I even said I was going to turn over my Rise in Peace archive. The archive that I have is still there. Photographs, videos, which I would love to turn over to the right kind of hands. And people like Brian that inspire me, so I wanted Brian to moderate this evening, so you can get to know the future. We needed a photographer, so we've got Angel. Where's Angel? Angel's is the official photographer. Where is she? There you are. Angel is our official photographer. She's about 21, 22. Let's encourage the future. Let's support the future. Do you know what I mean? And let's build back that family that we once had. It's still possible.
Okay, welcome everyone to the panel. So, first of all, Cecil, I'll begin with you. Could you talk to us about what the Black People's Information Centre was, when it started, and the importance of it?
The Black People's Information Centre was at 301, 303 Portobello Road. It did work in relation to a whole range of issues: education, policing, housing, etc. And essentially it was an advice and action centre. That really what it was. For me personally, I got invited to work there by Roden Gordon, the late Roden Gordon, who said, Gutzmore, why don't come and work with me? And I agreed and spent about a decade in that situation. I want to say, since this should be really about the book, that I want to congratulate our brother for putting it together and the team that were in it. I think it's extremely important, the title that he's chosen, because this notion of Frontline, it comes across negatively, but in fact this place and our relationship with it has been constantly a frontline experience. And it doesn't matter how far back you go. When we came into the ice and snow, that was the first frontline experience. When we encountered the first Queen Elizabeth, that was another frontline experience where they were forcing us abroad and enslaving us. And since then, it's been frontline, frontline, frontline in every dimension of our connection or disconnection with and from this place. So congratulations for having put the book together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And before we go any further, I want to introduce another contributor from the book and a great member of the community, Jeb Johnson. Jeb Johnson to the stage. Now, Jeb Johnson was Frank Critchlow's senior lieutenant and a leading figure on the All Saints Road. Now, Charlie Phillips, I'm going to move on to you. As we mentioned at the beginning, you have an extensive photo archive. But my question to you is, what motivated you to start documenting the lives of African and Caribbean people in Britain?
Well, I have to congratulate Ishmahil because my archives have been sitting on the attic in the bed for the last 50 years. And every year when I used to take them out, people used to ask me, did you really take it? But lucky enough, what keeps me going, I thought I'd have a nice peaceful retirement. All I wanted to do was to spend more time in the allotment and grow some chocha and some tomato. And catch up on my reading, War and Peace. I had an exhibition there, a mini exhibition there a few weeks ago, and I'm surprised to see so much young people coming out. And I never know a day like this would happen. And when you look at it, we're coming up to the 7th generation. We're coming up to the 7th generation. And what happens, there's a missing gap in our history because our grandparents, our parents never talked to us. You couldn't ask them any questions. When you used to ask them questions, they said, shut up like a picnic, must be seen and must be heard. And this has caused a missing gap. This has caused a missing gap in our history because our history, our story was just done orally. Okay. The second question, what made me go into photograph, yeah. I arrived here the 18th of August 1956, and the first night I arrived, we just laid a blue plaque on the first house I stayed 3 weeks ago, in April, in number 9 Blenheim Crescent. And it was so surprising that night I had to share a bed with 2 strangers who came off the ship. But having said that, we go on to about 1959 when I started. In this area, it was a ghetto, and it was a no-go area, and we used to have a lot of shoebeans, and we used to have a lot of Black American GIs who used to come here. Some of them used to take our women away and one thing or the other, and some of them got married. In those days, it was very hard to get a local girl because everybody wanted a GI to go to America. But apart from that, this GI, seriously, it's part of history. It's part of history, and this area, whether you like it or not, you know, I always say to this, I always say, you know, we gave Britain the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and others, because in some of the shoebeans that used to be here, some of these top stars used to come to listen to our music. But what made me go into photography was this Yankee, we called him Yankee in the days. I mean, I don't know if I must be politically correct. We can still say Yankee? Yeah. The Yankee, them used to come and take the woman away, but them used to come to the shoebeans, and this is where we used to get the American whiskey and the Parmer cigarette and the Chesterfield cigarette. And the Afro-Americans didn't want to go to the Lyceum or Hammersmith Pally. They danced to Joe Lass and Victor Sylvester music. So they used to find the local sound system. In those days, Duke Vin was at its prime. Anybody remember Duke Vin? Okay. We must big him up as well because his contribution to what is now British popular music has been misstart. So it's up to our generation have to tell full side of the story and to correct history. What made me go into photography? Anyway, this Yankee left got legless, him based in a Brize Norton, and he left a camera. He pawned a camera out to my father for 15 shilling, but he never come back to pick it up. So I started flicking around with it, And I used to do a paper round, and out of a paper round money, I used to go I went to Boots Chemist. And nowadays when I give talks, everybody's shocked because how I learned my trade, it was 3 and 6. I went to the Boots Chemist and I bought a book, Do-It-Yourself Photography for 3 and 6. And that's how I picked it up, yeah? And I went on and Charlie said, snap me. So I thought I'd put all these photographs because we thought we'd only spend 5 years in England. And I thought, boy, I can take all these photographs so when I go back to Jamaica, I can show what life was like in England. Yeah? And one of the things that's missing, one of the things that's missing from my photo collection, I never take no photographs during winter when the snow falls. So years ago, so we thought we'd only spend 5 years in England, and I just started taking photographs of the Shubbeans, the Blues Downs, Caribbean life. And this American left a magazine called the Saturday Evening Post. And I saw a picture in it that appealed to me. And years later I found out the artist was called Norman Rockwell, who done illustration on American life. And there was this amazing photograph, amazing picture called The Runaway. The runaway is a policeman looking over like a picnic who's running away from home. And that appealed to me because in those days, a family of 4 used to live in a one room, and I could play my music, the blues spot, till I go out. It's a long story, but...
Okay, I'm gonna have to wrap
no,
you up.
You want to hear more? You want to hear how to rediscover me? Yeah, well, I used to have a little restaurant called Smoky Joe's Diner. And one day, one of the music magazines wanted some early photographs of reggae artists from the ska era and also soul artists from the Q Club days. And I had a collection of that. And that's how they got me started. And there was a guy in the shop, saw all these photographs of
I'm going to have to wrap you up just very
quickly. Hold on. No. I would believe it, but what happens 50 years later, the institution decided to accept our history, because when my exhibition was first shown at the Museum of London, the fucking curator, excuse my language, the curator said to me, bloody hell, I didn't know people like this exist. And I said, I documented this from my community, and that's where I get started. Thanks for taking out the minute. Thanks for taking out. But there's more.
Now, next, I want to ask a question to Leslie Parmer. Now, as I mentioned in my introduction, you were at the helm of the carnival between 1973 and 1975. But I wanted to ask you, looking back and reflecting on your time, how has the carnival changed since then?
Hello, everyone. Really nice to be here. This is a very special occasion. I must tell you this. I've never seen anything like this in all the 50 years I've been living in Ladbroke Grove. I've never seen anything like this. Because there's never been anyone like Ishmahil. Thank you, Ishmahil. Thank you. Ishmahil took me to Cuba, and he said that he asked me about the MBE. Well, I was so busy every night. You know me, I love music. So I go into the dance hall every night, and I don't remember any kind of conversation about no MBE. What? You want to see them Cuban girl dance? Whoa! Anyway, when I come into the carnival business was because really, is that okay? Was because when I came in 1964, January, I saw a lot of Trinidadian fellas playing the steel drums, walking around Ladbroke Grove, here, Powis Square, etc. They got so bold-faced, you know, Trinidadian is bold-faced people, you know. Them used to go past Portchester Hall and go into Notting Hill Gate and come back down into Notting Hill Gate and go into Portobello Road and come down again to Miss Laslet place, I realized in 1972, 8 years after I came here, I realized what they were trying to do. They were trying to have a carnival, but they were having a jump up. In Trinidad, we call it a jump up. Not true? You can't have a carnival with one band. You can't do that. You cannot have a carnival without any costumes. You can't. It's not a carnival. It's just a jump up. So we used to have a jump up. Well, the reason I'm telling you this story is that to show you the difference between 1964, 65, right up until 1972, which was when Merle Major, a wonderful woman. Please put your hands together. I'll be as quick as possible, please. Because there's somebody in this audience called Bubbles. A great player. And they won the competition in Trinidad, and they got a trip to England. And they stayed over their trip, if you understand. They stayed beyond their trip. And Merle Major encouraged them, asked them to please come and play for by that time, remember it's 8 years, it's been going, the jump up been going 8 years. So she asked them kindly, would they come and play for we call it the carnival. Of course we call it a carnival. Would they come and play? And they did. And that was very, very, very important. So in 1973, there was going to be no jump up, no carnival, because there's no one to organize it. I had no ambition to do that. But I did. I did. And today, what you see and what you have today is what I did. But I would like, really, truly, I would like to give thanks because I stood on the shoulders of Ross Henderson, Sterling Betancourt, Selwyn Baptiste, Breeze. I stood on their shoulders because they did it. They did it. They were trying to have a carnival, but I graciously helped them, and thank you so much for listening to my little story.
What do you think are some of the challenges that are faced by the carnival, and what do you think the priorities of the event should be?
I think the major challenge to Carnival is the people of Carnival. Those who come into Carnival thinking they know everything, and because they come from Trinidad, then things must go a particular way. The biggest challenge I faced was making sure that people understood that this was Notting Hill Carnival. And it did not just reflect Trinidadian culture, it reflected our united heritage as black people. And you know, through research over the years, what I found out was that there was a semblance of carnival long before Trinidadians came along, because the Jamaicans were there on the Harrow Road doing their own thing for years. So the challenge for me was making sure people understood the roots of carnival so that they could go on and develop carnival in a way in which suits our then current social environment, and the way in which our young people were dragging it and telling us, look, Carnival is also part of their heritage, their legacy. They have to learn from us to take it forward, to make sure that the sacrifices of our ancestors moved on, lived on, took on a different form, a different shape of celebration, but essentially reflected who we are, proud Africans and proud owners of Carnival. Oh yes, and along that theme, because I've got a lot to say about that. Do you know, I came into Carnival and people were saying to me, oh, Carnival, it's a European thing. It came from Europe. Forgetting our Carnival came from Africa. And we must educate our children to understand that Carnival isn't a product of Europe. It's a product of Africa, and if you go to different countries in Africa, you see the roots of our Carnival. And it's very important that we learn that.
Where do you see the place of African and Caribbean people in Britain today?
How long have we got? I mean, there's so many things swirling around in my head as a result of what my colleagues have shared. Let me just say this. I think we have to understand that there is a huge section of the global African diaspora in Britain that have not experienced colonialism. They've experienced colonialism in Britain, but not in the countries to which our enslaved ancestors and forebears were brought. It means, therefore, that they are seeking to forge for themselves a British identity, drawing upon all the traditions of the global African diaspora, but being as creative as they could in relation to their given circumstances, which is exactly what we did in the Caribbean, which is what we are still doing in the Caribbean and doing now as those who came in that early period. I think we have to remember that, because one of the major injustices I think we've done to our children was to get too settled too quickly and to align ourselves with the wretched stratagems of this country as if we belonged. I promised myself that I will not mention the word Windrush today or any other day. But let me just say this. It is wrong. It is criminal for children born in this country, whenever, to be dragged into some narrative about being descendants of the Windrush or the Windrush generation, minoritizing them forever, while the institutions of the state continue to exclude them in every aspect of life. It is backward, it is reactionary, it is what I've described as politically illiterate, and it is so colonial. I mean, look, they are the new neo-colonialists that are being imposed upon us by the British state. And we have to understand that. Recently, I decided, particularly after last Wednesday, that we should turn the tables around. I am committed to giving gongs to those people in Parliament, etc., who continue with the hypocrisy and hubris and barbarism, I want to give them gongs. They represent, they recommend to Her Imperial Majesty that we should get whatever gongs there are. I want to give them some. And I want to start with Priti Patel. And my gong to that woman is LID, Lucifer in drag.
Now, could you talk to us about the importance of All Saints Road to the community of Notting Hill?
First of all, I salute all the frontline soldiers, the past and the present. I salute the heroes and the sheroes, and I salute the warriors who protected the line, and I salute the lawyers who defended us. Now I know that Grenfell deal with silence, but in memory of those who were incinerated in that inferno, can I ask you for 30 seconds of noise, Frontline style? Come on. Frontline was different. We were not just West London's capital of ganja. We were not just a gambling house. We had a talent pool. Multitude of talented people came onto the line. We even had our own cricket team. We were the center of culture and achievement. We empowered a whole generation from that line. We were a center of the black economy. A number of mouths were fed from the line. We became a focal point of resistance. When communities came under attack by the state, be it Handsworth in Birmingham, St. Paul's in Bristol, Chapeltown in Leeds, the people of Soweto, because I went to Soweto to support the people of Soweto from the front line. We were a product of the hostile environment. Frank used to say, the Home Office, Kensington and Chelsea, and the police created us. The book The Frontline is a manifestation of our lives on the line. It depicts the experience of some of us. This book is unique because it is an authentic recollection of living on the front line. I don't know how many of you were at Lucky Gordon's funeral, but on that day we decided that we couldn't leave it to chance. We had to control the narrative, because if we didn't control the narrative, they would write what they wanted, and we weren't able to take that chance anymore. So we decided we would control the narrative, like I said. We've used this already. There's a saying that until the lions have their own historians, then the hunters will not get glorified. So we decided we must control the narrative. And this is important, because like we said earlier on, if we leave it to the press, if we leave it to them, they'll write what they like. Ishmahil, where are you? I salute you, my brother. I couldn't think of anybody else who I could trust with writing this story. Nobody. You know, this ain't no Steve McQueen film or nothing. This is the real deal, written by Ishmahil and his crew. And listen, give him a standing ovation. I recognize your team also. The chief who proofread it, Scully, and lots of others who made major contributions. I salute you all. I thank the contributors, the graduates from the front line, without whom there would be no book. And by the way, in the future, no disrespect to all the eminent academics that we have around us, but I need to be referred to as Dr. Jeb. And let me tell you, and if anybody wants to know where I got my doctorate from, I got it on the front line, All Saints Road, at the Mangrove University of Life.
And I wanted to finish the panel discussion by closing with you, Margaret. And I wanted to get you to speak to all of us about the importance of the front line and what it means to black people in Britain.
Wow, that's a big question. And you heard some powerful words and voices on the stage. Now, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, really. Anybody who knows me knows that I prefer to be a backstage person. But I've been really privileged to be part of supporting the Frontline book, which is, the subtitle is A Story of Struggle, Resistance and Black Identity in Notting Hill. And I did live in Notting Hill in the late 60s and 70s. But I know this book is important because this is our history. And it's not just one story, one narrative, it is many strands of a huge tapestry. And we all have played a part in it, unless the generation coming up behind us, in front of us, know what happened, how can they go forward? So I just want to say the importance of this book is it's a history that nobody else has written. And there are hundreds of people in this whose words are included in this volume. And not everybody has the same story to tell, not everybody agrees. Some stories contradict other stories, but everybody is speaking their own truth. And from their perspective, what happened to them. And it's a history that we all have to listen to. We have to trust that everybody who's speaking, and thanks to Ishmahil for giving people the opportunity and the space to tell their own stories. And unless all of us listen and pass on this history, there'd be no hope for the next generation. So the importance is this, it's a history that has not been told before. And it's unique. Many of the people who are included in it are no longer with us. Their words are with us. And there are many who may not be included in it, but whose words, whose experiences would resonate with all the experiences in this volume. So the importance of this volume is telling a history that many people who are part of the black experience in Britain now should be able to pass on. And I know we've talked about what happened before them, 1948. Well, my father was here in the 20s. My grandfather was here in 1899, at the first Pan-African Conference in 1900. So I know very well that our history as black people goes back much further than 1948. And Ishmahil acknowledges that in the people he's interviewed and their history. So I think it's just important to realize that you'll never find this history anywhere else.
Abraham Wilson was born in the East End of London before the Second World War. He's part of the pre-Windrush community that settled around the docks areas of Britain. So can we give it up for Abraham Wilson?
During the Second World War, my mother and father, with 7 children, were subjected to extreme social and environmental conditions before and during and after the war. By me witnessing and absorbing these traumas, of running to air raid shelters, with the fears of being blown to bits, coupled at times with rejections in society, my attitude about society are partly due to the stresses re-emerging in my latter years. It was in 1944 that we rejoined our father in London after our 4-year separation in Cornwall. Our father had lived in London throughout the war years, one of the millions of people who deserve greater recognition. The victory celebrations after the war had ended were overshadowed by the death of our dear father in 1945. His death at the age of 57 left our mother mourning and widowed with 9 children at the age of 34. My brother, aged 13, and myself, 11 at the time, helped with family finances. Because we were surrounded with so much destruction of property, we made money that would not be lawful in times of peace. Black market or under-the-counter practices were common. Scarcity was obtainable if you had money. My brother and I were once stopped and searched by the police in the street. We had tins of spam that we had retrieved from the White House. Police officers saw us, but we were told to go on home. In wartime, the laws are different. When we were in Cornwall, we survived food shortages by helping ourselves from surrounding fields of fruit and vegetables. The winters in Cornwall were terrible, very little heating. Fast forward 8 years. After so many traumas, love entered my life. At the age of 21. The following verse commemorates our first meeting. Our eyes met momentarily the first time we met. The second time, the passion I never will forget. Now when the love of my life walks towards me, and I see her smiling face. Just like 2 powerful magnets, we locked in an embrace. The feelings of love overwhelm me. It makes me want to cry. Please, God, it will last forever till the day I die. This year we celebrate 66 years of, celebrate our 66th wedding anniversary. Looking back, the wind rushed on. Looking back, the Windrush campaign changed my life. It enabled me to get my first and decent job. First as a bus conductor, then a bus driver, and then later a taxi driver. This gave me the opportunity for acquiring the materials, assets needed in life. But at the age of 52, in spite of these material things, life felt empty and my feelings were very at odds with the status quo. With a reluctant wife, we rooted ourselves and went to live in Ghana, where both our fathers were born. In Accra in Ghana, I first learned about the Baha'i revelation and the Baha'i administrative system, which is being practiced in every country of the world. At last, a cause worth living for. When I returned to London, I persuaded the editor of Taxi magazine to publish a 2-part series. If anyone is interested, please ask me for a photocopy later. I would like to finish with the following prayer. O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal to them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy laws. Help them, O God, in their endeavours and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily thou art their helper and their Lord. Hallelujah. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah, greetings to everyone, right? I'm Lloyd Coxsone, I'm Sir Coxsone, international, right? It is good that everybody was awake, you know, so that you could record the history in a book like this, right? I'm from the other side over Brixton, but I come to England 1962 in one of the worst winter. And I wanted us to return to Jamaica immediately. I give my father so much trouble, right? And then he said to me, if you want to go back to Jamaica, you have to go and sign on at the Youth Exchange in Ballamai Road, and then work your fare back to Jamaica. So when I went to the exchange, right, to get a job, for 6-7 months, I couldn't get a job. The man in there wouldn't give me a job, and he had about 10 tray. There was long tray with job sheets in there. And one day I go there and I couldn't take it anymore, and I give him some of my Jamaican purple. And he turned red like, you know, son. And then he get vexed and he said, listen, I'm going to show you the reason why I can't give you one of these job cards. And when he pulled out the job card, it said NCP. You know what that means? No colored people. So I couldn't get a job there, you know? But after a while, they give me a job to work on the railway. And I developed myself coming through sound system. I've been through racism. I've been through victimization with the police. I've been through everything. But that did not faze me. I still carry on until today, you know, and I'm here. So, big up yourself, everyone, and much respect.
Okay, now we're in the Q&A section. So to kick us off, I'm going to ask Chinedu to ask the first question. Here you go.
Now, Cecil, before I ask the question, I've got one other quick thing to say. Outside of my father, yeah, you are, and even back then in my 20s, are the most intelligent black man I knew, all right? It seemed like everything I spoke to you about, you just knew the answer, no matter what it was. And I said, I need to be like this. I need to be like you. So I looked up to you then, and I still do, and I sincerely mean that, as the most intelligent black man that I had the experience to be around as a young youth. Okay, so I want you to know that. Now the question, if the BPRC, if it was still going, do you think we still need, it's a two-pronged question. We know the type of institution that it was, all right? Do you think an institution like that could still survive today in that same format? If yes, say yes. If not, no, and why?
Thank you for the big up. And to answer very briefly the question, all of the problems that we dealt with, housing issues, educational issues, policing issues, are still emphatically there, and all of those issues need to be properly serviced from within our community. So the necessity is still there.
And one of the founders of the Tabernacle Children's Mass Band. So I'm actually going to ask this next question. Bernice, how important were centres like the Mangrove and the Tabernacle, where we're at today, to the community?
It's an interesting question, because I just met one of our former Tabernacle Children's Mass Band children downstairs. Of course, he's a grown man now, and one of the things, what he was saying to myself and two of the other women down there was that we was his parents, we was his mom and dad. We made him into the man that he is today, because he was one of our young members who his mom wasn't around, his dad wasn't around, and when his dad was around, he wasn't able to care for him because he had a drinking problem. Today, he's a fine young man, He's useful and he's purposeful. And I think that is the only answer. You know, they say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I just had the proof of the pudding. And we get it all the time from young people. Because this Mangrove, Tabernacle, that was their safe place where everybody knew their names. That's what it was. Lots of the young people around here, when Mangrove was what's written in this book here, and Tabernacle, a lot of their parents was incapable. They couldn't care for them. We had a drugs problem. We had a drink problem. We had a homelessness problem. We had people who wasn't an uneducated problem. But we, Mangrove Tabernacle, we were their safe place. We were the place where they get. And Richard was actually just saying to me, your parents, you don't only need to have parents to love you. If you don't have parents to love you, he said to me downstairs, we had you guys to love us. He's a grown man now with children of his own, useful and purposeful.
Thank you for that. Now, before we get to the question, unfortunately, we're going to have to excuse Margaret, who has to leave. So thank you, Margaret, for being on the panel. If people could put up their hand if they've got a question for the panel. Okay, well, I'll kick us off then. Where? Okay, we've got someone over here, so I'm going to pass on another mic.
Madam Holder, will the carnival still proceed this year?
I am no longer involved in carnival, but I see advertisements, just like you, on the internet about Carnival 2022. I see reports of Carnival 2022 twinning with Glastonbury. I have a lot to say about that and against that, but Carnival, I understand, is happening.
Thank you.
So in celebrating the book and celebrating the history in this book, Ishmahil also made the point that no one's perfect and that many of the characters in the book, as everyone has flaws, but I'm thinking from the perspective as a woman, a womanist, not a feminist, I make it very clear. There is a history, not only in this community, but there were many men in particular who have committed quite awful offences against women, you know, the treatment of women. I won't go into details, those who are in this room and those people know what we're talking about. What can we learn from putting these histories out that we can pass on to the next generation to change?
And I think what we have to do as women is make sure that our sons do not behave the same way in which maybe that generation is behaving. I think we can only hope that those men who are guilty of it have turned and seen the light. But they're a lost cause as far as I'm concerned, and the responsibility is with us to teach our males how to behave towards their sisters, their mothers who gave birth to them, who created them, and who are the reason why they are here and exist.
Okay, Professor Gus John. I want to echo what Claire has just said and say something more about that, which is that we men should not have to wait until women complain before we call one another out. The responsibility for expunging that kind of misogyny, abuse of women from amongst us, lies with us as men. And so the notion that, well, you know, it was ever thus, that's how we do it, we did it at home, in the Caribbean, we do it, that is totally unacceptable. And one of the reasons why it is so unacceptable is that that kind of conduct damages us from one generation to the next. For those of us like me, who work amongst young people and see the horrendous, barbaric sexual abuse of young black girls by young black boys, must have a concern about cutting all of that shit out. Cutting it out. And so we have to take collective responsibility. We who are men, call it out for one another and ensure that it's not simply a matter for women to say, let us make sure that we are not excluded, let us make sure that this domestic violence nonsense stops and so on. We, who consider ourselves to be enlightened men, creating positive histories, have a responsibility in that regard too, and it's about time we started to embrace that responsibility.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bertha Joseph. I've been involved with Notting Hill Carnival since 1976. Now, I'm one of the contributors in the book. I'd like to thank Ishmahil for writing our story, for embedding our footprint so that our children will know the history of Carnival. This book is going to be in my will for one of my children because they need to know the story. So Ishmahil, you're a legend. Thank you very, very much. My question is, we're getting on. I know I look young, Alice still look young, but we're getting on and we've got to accept it. I would like to know what steps are we taking to encourage our young people to carry on the carnival and to make sure it doesn't die.
This local authority, and we have an audit which shows the precise way in which they, the local authority here, has been ripping off the carnival over decades, not contributing to it. That's the first issue. The second issue is that that same local authority, on the basis of a bogus consultation, claims now to own the carnival. Repeat, claims now to own the carnival. And it seems to me that a crucial issue going forward is that our community finds a way to challenge successfully that bogus claim by that wicked, historically wicked local authority. They're the ones who are responsible for, that burned tower there, 72 people died. They're the ones, right? And how they come to even dream of claiming to own the carnival is past my conceptualization, and I think we as a community ought to find a way to do something about it.
Those who gave ownership of this carnival to the local authority should be ashamed of themselves, and they should be called out. Not just about it. The local authority could not do what it did without collaborators and our neo-colonialist officers.
We have a responsibility too. When I talk about the occasion downstairs and you have a young man inviting us to the wedding, I'm godmother to a lot of the children who started in our group, who have children of their own now. I'm godmother. Me and other women in the group are godmothers. We've made lifelong friendships. Families has come out of the group. But it takes effort. It takes effort from us. So we have to create that environment where young people can come and become interested in carnival, in making masks, in playing masks, and learn to integrate. This is where they form their characters in a mask camp, if you're there to provide that sort of resource, where children come and feel safe and learn to interact, learn to become adults, learn to be people who can have their own families, hold a job, buy a home. All that can be created in a mask camp. But you need the resource. You need the people who are prepared to sacrifice their time, to to create that environment for young people to learn and develop. Making masks is not just about a costume. It goes far beyond that if you have the right environment, the right resource, and the right adults prepared to teach children who didn't even know they wanted to learn. So it's not just about the council and the authorities. Yes, they play a big part, because hopefully they will give us maybe the buildings and stuff to do that. But we have to, we have to be prepared to make sacrifice too for our carnival and our children, so they can carry on that legacy. It's not just about the council.
Thank you. And for the builders, there is a museum. The London Transport is a museum. I myself is trying very hard for the last 10 years to make a reggae museum. And now the government has given us several buildings to look at to say, would that suitable for the reggae museum? So why can't we have a museum for Ladbroke Grove Carnival?
I'm with you, and I know just the site. We demand, we come together, and we make them understand that our heritage is just as important to us and to this country. And therefore, it deserves that space where every aspect of our cultural heritage could be provided. There are wonderful sites within Notting Hill itself. And there's a wonderful site at the corner of Lancaster Road and Ladbroke Grove, which I've had my eyes on for years, but yes, we can go for it.
Could you tell me what you think are the most important things that came out of and the legacies of their suffering?
Okay, that's a question about the Mangrove Nine, the lesson that came out of it.
Many things came out of it. History was made in more ways than one through that particular struggle. It demonstrated that we as a community could stand up against the police and expose the brutality and corruption and nastiness. To the extent that a judge, faced with all the evidence, had to agree that the police were corrupt. Not only that, as Leila Hassan and others in this room can attest to, the model of defense that the Mangrove Nine demonstrated in that court was to inform our struggles with the law and with the judiciary for many decades afterwards. So it cannot be underestimated as a particular moment of black resistance in this country, and the spin-offs of that in other areas of our lives, and in the way that law practitioners themselves behaved. Because it was those lawyers who go to open law school or this one or that one, they had never seen anything like that in their lives. Ian MacDonald was born with courage written across his forehead. And he demonstrated that you can't separate the law from the context in which legal matters occur, nor can you separate the law from the state and what it wants the law to do for it. So it was legal, it was political, it was social, and for many people it was emotional and psychological to this day. And we can learn lessons from that. You know, I won't go on forever, I promise you. Frederick Douglass famously said, and I paraphrase, find out what any people would put up with, and you have the exact measure of the misery that's going to be heaped upon them. We put up with too much. We are not assertive enough about what is rightly ours, morally and legally. Yeah? So, we have one group of people in the community, the Jewish community, shouting the loudest the British state encouraging Israeli colonialism against the Palestinians, big time, and they shout loud enough to get 4 former prime ministers to line up in Parliament in Westminster and pledge to give £100 million to the Jewish community for a monument right next to the Parliament building, so that nobody could forget the Holocaust. When the Memorial Committee in 2007, the bicentenary of the Abolition of Slavery Act, went to the government and said, we want a permanent monument to enslaved Africans in this place. They said they had no money. The Memorial Committee was asking for £4 million. They had no money to get $4 million. They were responsible for the barbarism that was heaped upon our ancestors. Hitler and the Third Reich were responsible for what happened to the Jews in the industrial ovens in Europe. But they're quite happy to provide £100 million of your money and mine for that monument to the Jewish Holocaust. And they can't find $4 million for a memorial to enslaved Africans. Worse than that, they don't want to hear the word reparations or reparatory justice. The question is, what the hell are we doing about it?
Well, I would say, first, you can see we've got this. This was as a result of the Mangrove Nine. Lots of the stuff in here. You've got people like myself and hundreds of people, because of the Race Relation Act, were able to feel confident. Was able to feel that, yes, I can stick up for myself. I can be somebody. We became educated. We educated ourselves because we were able to say, I have the right to be educated, to argue our case because of the Mangrove Nine. Children like my daughter, who now works in the cabinet office with Boris and them people there, But I have to say, it's as a result of the Mangrove Nine that she's now in that job, because of people like Frank Critchlow, who's a godfather. I've been a specialist palliative care now, working for Macmillan for 28 years because of people like Frank Critchlow and the Mangrove Nine, because they gave us opportunities, they gave us confidence, yet they put their neck out for us, and we are the results of that. So I think we can say we came out of that, and we are thankful for it. Not just the
Okay. That's all the questions we have time for. I'm really sorry, we're stuck for time. So now we're going to move.
launch of Ishmahil's book, The Frontline, and we've had an amazing turnout. Probably a couple of thousand people have passed through to listen to the keynote speakers who talked about the book, The Frontline, which is about the struggles of Afro-Caribbean peoples in England going back post the so-called Windrush.
He's telling a story and he's telling the history of the area. What is also, the thing about Ishmahil is, he's a leader. He's articulate and he's a very intelligent man that should actually stand up and lead this community.
I'm here because this is an important part of my history, because I lived in the area, I went to school in the area, I went to church in this area, and I keep coming back because it's a part of my history. I lived it all. I remember the Mangrove Nine, I've watched the tape and the court hearings, seen the movie and how the police treated them abysmally. I even read Darker's Howe's book. And it's important that Ishmahil has written this book to charter our history. It needed to be done.
So I'm here to celebrate this fantastic book that has been compiled by Ishmahil and his team. I am part of the Mangrove community, so this book is very important to me.
Are you in the book?
No, I may be slightly, but I wasn't interviewed, no.
The reason I'm here is because I was invited by Ishmahil, because I'm in the book there somewhere. I travelled all the way from Wales to be here tonight, and I thought the Q&A session was very, very good. But also some of the speakers were really and truly inspirational. I think it's a momentous occasion for the community, and I'm glad I'm a part of it.
I think we're all here for the same reason, to celebrate resistance, survival, heroism, all of that. How lucky we are to have known anything about this extraordinary history.
I was invited yesterday, but why I didn't go to the Windrush celebration, I saw what Professor Gus John wrote. Because what they're doing, when we came to England as young people, they didn't welcome us. There wasn't no one there to come and welcome us, but people are coming in now. There's welcome for them.
I came into the carnival in 1991, so I'm really interested in everything that goes on in this area about the carnival, and definitely interested in what they call the Frontline. Know a lot of the history about the Mangrove Nine, things like that, but I really, really think it's important to fill in the gaps in our history and our heritage, and look and just pay homage and give respect to the ancestors and those people who came before us.
And this is a treasure. And I think every black person in UK must have this book, because it's not all about Notting Hill. This is a replica. The people not only in London or Notting Hill, but in all over UK. I'm telling the story, and it's relevant now.
Very rare, very rare.
It was viral. So dead serious.
Monday.
They push me in the corner, yeah.